Good morning, welcome to Ag Talking Raw, where I talk raw about agriculture and other things that are on my mind. Okay, look at what I've got on now. We are back to fall weather. It's getting cold. So what's happening with this hurricane is it is spinning in this crazy rotation, and that rotation is pulling cold, cool air from the northern sea. I actually used my telephone here, and I looked at the wind charts, and it is actually pulling all that cold air from the north, and that's why it's cooled off kind of fast, I guess. I may be blowing smoke up your ass or not, I don't know, but that's just the way I see it on my telephone. And isn't technology great? Just great. So, on that point, I was watching Jeff Raymond, and if you don't know who Jeff Raymond is, just go on over to YouTube and get on your keyboard and type in Jeff Raymond, and he's a funny guy out there near St. Louis, Missouri, near St. Louis. I've seen him take grain into, and seen the Missouri Arch thing, or whatever they call that thing. Would that be in Illinois, right? Isn't Missouri, St. Louis, Missouri, and Illinois? Yeah, I think it's out that end. Anyway, my geography today is not good, as you can see. I'm tired. Anyway, with that being said, Jeff just did his yield check. Now, I watched him go in and pull the rope, the 26.5 feet or 26 foot 1 inch on his 20-inch rows, the piece of rope, and pull the 2, 6, and 10th ear and come out and count them. And I said to Teresa, I says, yep, that's 140 bushel corn. And, of course, he does his little sliding chart thing, and it says 163 or 165 bushel corn. And he says, and then you might as well just deduct 20 bushels because that's the way these things go. So I was spot on, Jeff, just so you know that. And I know you watch his channel. And it was a great video, by the way. If you don't watch Jeff Raymond's videos, you should, because he's a no bullshit guy. I mean, he calls it the shit show. There's a reason he calls it the shit show, because it's not shit. It's actually really, really good. I've seen shit shows, and Jeff's is not one of them. So there's a bunch of shit shows out there that are very, very popular, and they don't depict the real agriculture in this country. They only depict the rainbows and unicorns side of it. You can say that my channel is that way as well, the One Lonely Farmer channel, because I do depict the real side of it. I mean, shit breaks all the time, and if you're not breaking shit, you're not farming. I don't care who you are. But anyways, with that being said, yeah, Jeff Raymond, check him out. So and that also brings me to the thoughts that I really wish I could have got that corn in the ground. I miss growing corn so bad. It's just this time constraint thing, and it sucks. But this hurricane is kind of throwing a clinker in the dunion pin there, and we are probably not going to be going down to chop that fodder as soon as we expected, because they're getting pummeled by rain and other unsavory wet shit coming from the sky, wind and other stuff. So, that's going to slow them down, but that's better for me because I can get my work done. I mean, we're getting close. We're getting closer every day to that goal of completion of first cut hay. Bale counts, where they're expected, we're at about 7,000 bales. I've got about 3,000 to make, so that put us about 10. And, of course, the second cut would normally put us over 12,000 bales, 11 to 12,000 bales. I'm happy at 10. If I don't get to 12,000 bales, oh well, because I've done the straw, and I'm going to be doing the corn fodder, and that is going to be great. So, in other news, I guess the harvest is they're jumping the gun down there, where they're picking corn, I think. I mean, it's just my personal opinion. Anytime you got to fire up a dryer in September, it's they're in August and they're firing up a dryer. You have time. You don't have to have your weed in yet, guys. You do have time. So, yes, I understand when it gets to that point where you really want to get done for the year and take that vacation or whatever you're talking about, or maybe you need the money and you need to move that on. But don't cost yourself before you're, for that little bit of money. Don't cost yourself. And I'm playing with stuff. I should really stop that. I got the fidgets. Yeah, I mean, if you're picking corn that's 22, 24%, park the combine. It's okay. Give it a week. Give it a week. It'll come down, and then you won't have to spend so much money on propane and then choking up augers and, having failures, because wet grain does not move very easy. Trust me. We've done it. About 10 years ago, we had 8 or 10 years ago, we had God, it's got to be damn near 10 years. We had a solar company come in. Yep, solar company came in, took a bunch of ground, put up solar panels, and I had corn on 2 farms. Yeah, I think it was 2 farms they were slated to put these solar panels on. And they told me, you need to get these corn stalks off of here, because if you don't, we need to get this corn off of here and get those stalks gone, because if you don't, we're going to just bulldoze your corn. And I had to go in, and it was still green. We were still milking cows, obviously. And I had all this green corn. I got over there with a combine, and it was like this in the bin. I mean, it comes up the bubble auger, and it wouldn't even spread out. I like it when it flows like water. That means it's somewhere around 16, 17% moisture, and it'll just go right through the combine. It'll shell out real nice. But this was not that way. It was hard on the head. It was hard. It was just difficult. So they needed those corn stalks off, and then it needed to be worked down, and they needed to get grass planted so that they could destroy the grass with the solar panel equipment, in which they promptly did. But yeah, it cost a lot of money to dry it. It ruined the test weight, because once you get over 22%, you start depleting your test weight by running it through a dryer, if you didn't know that. So I'm sure there's a lot of guys out there that do know that fact. And trying to get corn off at 25% or 24% or 20, and even 22%. I mean, I didn't really want to start picking corn until the corn was around 20% moisture, and that meant after shelling it out of the ear, putting it in the moisture tester, it would have to be around 18 in the moisture tester, because you know damn well once you go through with a combine, it's going to pull that. It's going to be 20%, 22%. But anything over 22%, in my opinion, now I think some others may argue this fact, but in my opinion, here in New Jersey, to get that corn down to say 16%, if through the dryer, we put it in a bin, and then it would dry down in the bin. You don't want to bring it down to 15.5 and then turn the bin fans on and drop it down to 13% moisture, because you're just losing money. So my goal was always around 15% moisture. We would bring it down in the dryer down to about 16 and a half, put it in the bin, run the bin fans, and then mysteriously within 2 weeks we were down to somewhere around 15.5, which was where we want to be. I remember having extraordinarily dry corn going in there and running a mist of water in through the bin fan to bring the humidity up, because it was just too damn dry. I had that. That was years ago. So it didn't work out either. It just didn't work out. Don't do that. It was an experiment that I tried. It didn't work for me. Maybe it works for other people, but it didn't work for me, because we had channels of forget it. Just don't do it. Dumb. Just dumb. But when you're getting dinged at 13% moisture, they're not going to pay you up to 15.5, and you are losing that little bit of weight there. So, but anyways, whatever. And it costs you. It costs you in propane. So that's the story with that. So if you're affected by the hurricane, I'm sorry. I hope it's not too god-awful bad. I was watching a flag, a U.S. flag on a pole. Fox News had it on their live feed of Hurricane whatever Dorian. That flag, when they first showed it, it was, flying like pretty straight. Halfway through this, like 3 hours later, I clicked on it again, and I was like, oh my God. It had actually, the wind was blowing so hard that it had pulled that rope to about a foot. That flag was flying so violently that it pulled the rope, any slack in the rope, and that flag was just, it looked like this little vibrating, I don't know. It was just vibrating at the end. The wind was blowing so hard. I didn't see it the next day, which was yesterday. I didn't see it. They didn't show it. And I was like, holy shit, I bet that flag is just shredded to bits. So, yeah, I don't know. But if you've been affected by that, I'm sorry to hear that. And, hopefully you've got crop insurance on that if, if you believe in crop insurance. Now, there's a lot of people out there, when I talk my conservative views, which I do have conservative views, I don't think that Social Security should be, that's a whole nother subject. I don't think that welfare should be a permanent solution, because it's not. It's a problem. Permanent welfare just produces useless, non-working individuals. It becomes a career for these people. It becomes generational welfare recipients. There's a family up here. They are now on their fourth generation of welfare, third generation. Let's see. 1, 2, 3. Yeah, third generation of welfare. So they got third generation of welfare recipients, and those kids are out there. They're going to be fucking, and they're going to be having little kids, and they're going to be on welfare too, because guess what? That's what they do. And then because it's normal to them. I think there is some room in a conservative's mind for some assistance in if there's problems, like if mother and father, one of the parents dies, and say the breadwinner dies. Ooh, it just got dark. Yeah, say the breadwinner dies, and then you've got the stay-at-home mom or stay-at-home dad, because that's the way the world works anymore. It doesn't matter which one. Needs to be re-educated, and they have, say, 1, 2, 3 kids, and they need to, or 4. Some people still have 4 kids. I've got 4, 4.5, I guess you want to say. Of course, Teresa would probably be shaking her head down there, but I did raise a child that was not mine, and I still consider him my son, even though he is not blood. But you down there shaking your head? She didn't hear me. She just... See, the Philippine culture is if you leave your husband, you take the kids, or he takes the kids, and that's it. You don't ever see the kids again. It's weird. There's no child support there or anything. They can promise, but it never happens. So anyway, yeah, if there's a problem and you need some assistance, I think that there should be a temporary solution to that problem, and there is room for that. Whether it's through the Social Security programs, which the children would be then entitled to Social Security under the current rules until they're 18 years old, which I find, or 18 or until they graduate college. No, I think it's until they're 18 in here. It might be. I may be wrong. Don't be quoting me, for God's sakes. It could be till they're done with college, but I'm pretty sure it's just 18, because I had an uncle that was killed in a plane crash, and he had a 17-year-old son, and his birthday was in December, and he was killed in November, and his birthday was at the end of December, and he was killed in November of 2002, like the 8th or it was something terrible. It was horrific, believe me. I miss my Uncle Paul. He was a great guy. I mean, he was a great guy, and I'm sure today he would still be. He would still be a great guy. We would be really good friends, and it would have been great. He'd probably be retired right now, but yeah, he died in 2002. So we're looking almost 20 years now, getting there. 17 years, a long time. So, anyways, yeah. I'm kind of off track. Oh, okay. So you have this temporary solution. What the hell? Looks like streaks of dirt, but it's not. Yeah, so it should be temporary. Welfare should be for like a re-educational purposes only. Free housing or COA housing, the Coalition for Affordable Housing, which was here in New Jersey, that should have never happened. And if it was a thing, it should have been military barracks, some unpleasant, hot, sweaty, nasty places to live. Safe and clean, but just not ideal, because over here in Flemington, there is the COA housing, where the illegal aliens that come up from Central South America, and they're living better than me. Yep, on our dollar. That's just the cold hard fact of it. I have a property owner here. She was looking to, do some investing in properties, and she was looking at these things because they were for sale, and they were COA units that you could buy, and then, believe me, she's looking at them, she's like, this is public housing? This is better than what I've got. And she was really kind of upset about it. Like, holy shit, this is what we have? So it shouldn't be that way. They should be Quonset huts, the old steel Quonset sheds with a locking door. that echo really bad so that you're annoyed instead of comfortable receiving free food and all these other things. Now, here's another subject. I watch Prager University. If you don't know who Prager University is, just check it out. He's on YouTube. He is in a battle right now with YouTube because they demonetize his videos, and he is a conservative. He doesn't preach. He informs people on how to be a true American citizen, really, your rights and liberties, and how you are losing your freedoms in the United States due to liberal idiocracies. And it is really a good show. He's an old fella. I'd say he's in his 70s, maybe early 80s, mid 70s. But Dennis Prager University, has a radio show. He teaches values. I am not the most religious person on here. I never will be. I'm not religious. I went to Christian school. I learned large segments of the Bible. I read a lot of that thing. But I cannot say I am a Wrangler star of the internet. I'm not. And, some people say thank God for that. Some people say I'm going to hell. Well, maybe I'm going to hell. That's okay. I just think that if you live a good life, and if there is a big spaghetti monster in the sky, then you will be accepted, and there you go. I may be wrong, and that's the risk I'm willing to take. So there you go. If I go to hell, then I go to hell. It's just an eternity of burning flesh, pain, and I think that's farming sometimes. So, I really do. That's pretty tough, but I'm not going to discount it, and I'm not going to criticize you if you are religious. I am just not going to do that because I'm not going to do it. It's your belief. You do what you want with it, and I will too. So check out Dennis Prager, and you will learn a lot about what freedom is in America, what is right and what is wrong. And I do share his opinions on marriage, children, and the one thing I don't is the religious side of it, but that's just him. So Miss Teresa's down there attacking poor William. He's in there eating her plants. Yeah, he's got some Jimson weed down there or something, which is bad. I'm just joking. So there you go. Check him out. And you will learn a lot. You really will learn a lot, and how the liberal left is just trying to destroy the country. And I say that because if you think that any one of those Democrat idiots that are running for president has your best interest in heart, you are sadly and sorely mistaken. If you listen to what they're saying, they want total government control. For Christ's sakes, they're going to limit the amount of hamburger you can eat. They're going to limit plastic straws. They're going to limit your ability to buy a gasoline-powered car, and that brings us to climate change. Now, everybody knows that our climate is changing. Now, has the climate changed before, say, the Industrial Revolution in the late 1800s, mid to late 1800s? I think the Industrial Revolution started in, 1840, 1860, somewhere in 1840. I think that's about right, 1840. So from 1840 to today, which you're looking at 175 years, my math isn't going to be that good right now, so just say 175, 180 years. In the 180 years, yeah, our climate has changed. But did it change before that? What's the answer to that? The answer is absolutely, or we would still have dinosaurs chasing our asses around. Come on. There's huge scientific information or data stating that where I am right now, there were palm trees and big leaf tropical plants. And there's fossils. I got fossils up here off of Ridge Road. Ridge Road is called Ridge Road because there is a outcropping cliff type of thing, and it's a ridge. It's a ridge because it goes like this on both sides. And the road goes down the ridge of these fairly fertile soils. Dries out. There's a lot of shale there because over the millennia it has washed down streams. But there's fossils in there, and I've actually have one. It might even be on this desk somewhere. It's a red shale, and it's probably about 30 feet below grade at the top, and I was just fooling around there, pulling them out, and I have a fern fossil where I just chipped it away, and there were these leaves. Well, that's nice, thank you. You can see them. So ferns and stuff still are very prevalent here, but these were different fern-looking things than the ferns that we have here. So there you go. Yeah. So climate is changing, always has changed, always will change. The Ice Age gave way to the, I don't know, what was the next age? The Dark Age? I know that there was all kinds of different climates that we've dealt with and we deal with. The 90s were traditionally a wet. The 10 years in the 90s were wet. The 10 years in the early 2000s were dry, like really dry. Well, let me think. 98 was the driest year I remember. 98 and 99 were bone-ass dry. So the late 90s and then until about 2005, it was pretty dry. And then the 10 years after that, there was decent normal weather. And then 2017, 2018, we had really dry. 2016, 2017, we had really dry springs. And 15, 16, 17, dry springs. 18, good. Wet. This year, wet, mud. So the climate is always changing, shifting, and doing its thing. Are they more dramatic? I don't know. There's data in the 1800s where Louisiana got hit with a hurricane that was bigger than Katrina down there. And Katrina happened in the early 2000s. And now they're claiming this one here is worse than that, which is bullshit. It wasn't. I mean, it came to shore at a Category 3. Bahamas got raped, but what can you do? It's an island out in the middle of the ocean. It's bound to happen. And, so the climate does change naturally. There was a volcanic eruption that happened off the coast of Sicily on an island of Stromboli, and if you've ever eaten Stromboli, you know that it's good, and I like it. But there was a volcano, and they say that the carbon, or the CO2, or the pollution that came from that volcano, they call it pollution. I call it sulfur, manganese, and all sorts of nice elements that I'm going to be getting for free over the next year. There was more pollution from that than like 5 years of carbon emissions from a car. And if you think that an electric car is going to produce no emissions, I'm sorry to say, you're wrong. They need some form of fuel to produce that electricity. Unless it's water. And nobody wants to dam up streams anymore. They're like, oh my God, you're going to kill the fish, the fauna, the flora, whatever. So anyway, what do? What do you do when you realize that electricity doesn't just mysteriously come out of that wire, that it takes diesel fuel, bunker oil. There's a lot of these power plants that still burn bunker oil, coal, solar. Okay, so people are saying, oh, well, solar's free. You just put the panel out there and you get solar energy. Yeah, well, what did it take to produce that solar panel? It took a lot of pollution, a lot of coal, natural gas, or whatever energy that it took to produce that solar panel. So you're not getting away from that. And solar is very inefficient. At its peak, it's 22% efficient. At its peak, like when it's brand new on the summer solstice, it's 22% efficient. That's it. Or maybe that's the average for the year. It is the average for the year. So at its peak, in 1 year's time, is 22, and it only goes downhill from there. By the time that solar panel is 10 years old, it is only producing half of what its peak efficiency was from new. And that is at a loss. Your efficiency for the, what it produces and what it costs to put it in are shot. So they put them in for 20 years. And then you've got this mess that needs to be dismantled, which will take diesel fuel, manpower, iron, like smelted iron, which takes coal because that's what it takes to melt metal. And if you're using the electronic, the electronic smelting process, that takes a lot of hydro, a lot of wind, a lot of solar, a lot of coal, a lot of bunker, a lot of natural gas, a lot of fuel. It takes a lot of fuel to do that, to smelt that process or make that electricity. So in the end, what did you really gain? Probably nothing. You just offset it with a whole lot more pollution, and it just, wake up, America. Wake up. It's not a solution. It's just offsetting one problem with another, one form of pollution for another. So if you pump oil out of the ground, you refine it, which takes an awful lot of heat, by the way. And where do you think that heat comes from? More fuel. It's like 3,000 degrees to vaporize crude oil to suck off each gas, condense it, and produce it to burn in your car, your house, wherever you're burning fuel, your camp fuel, your jet planes, all that stuff. It takes fuel to make fuel. I'll never forget a John Stossel report on ethanol and how the ethanol is a myth, how it takes fuel to make fuel. Never touched on crude oil and how much it takes to produce crude oil. How many barrels of oil does it take to produce a gallon of gas? 1 gallon of gasoline. It would be a staggering number, I am sure. I cannot remember what it is, but I was, at one point, back in my memory banks, I believe it's 1.5 barrels of crude to refine a barrel of crude. So, in order to refine that 1 barrel of crude, it takes 1.5 barrels from start to finish, from exploration to drilling to everything that it took to erect the derricks and ship it and build the plants to refine it. It's 1.5 barrels of crude to refine a barrel of crude. So 1.5 times the fuel to produce fuel. So look it up. It's out there. I'm sure it's out on the interweb someplace. Don't just believe one lonely farmer here. So when you go to the field and you've got your 400 horsepower John Deere 8400R and you're like, wow, this is the most efficient tractor there is, and you're pulling it and you're burning 1 gallon of fuel, just know that it took 1.5 gallons to produce that gallon of diesel fuel. And that's pretty much the cold hard facts of it. So if you get 5 gallons, I don't know how many gallons of diesel fuel you get out of a barrel of crude oil. And here's a fun fact for you. How many gallons are in a barrel of crude? And I will explain to you really quick. It's 44. 90% of people think that it's a 55-gallon drum, right? A barrel. A barrel of oil should be like a 55-gallon barrel, like we would buy from the store of hydraulic engine or whatever. But it's not. It's 44. So how did they come up with 44 gallons in a barrel for crude? Well, they used to cart this oil in open barrels on horse and buggy through rough roads, old trails out of wherever they were getting this stuff, and it would slosh out of the barrels. The average number of gallons in one of the barrels that they used to cart their oil to the refinery in was 44 gallons. So they just made a barrel of crude at 44 gallons. So yeah, there you go. And even as a refined barrel, it's still 44 gallons. So to produce 44 gallons of material, it takes, 66 gallons to produce 44. Yeah. There you go. So, yeah. Anyway, that's that. I have a lot of fun facts rolling around in my head. Anyway, that's kind of stupid, but whatever. I guess it's been 30 minutes of me talking and watching my poisonous food cool off. Because, we wouldn't dare be allowed to eat what we want in America. What's free about that? Anyways, food for thought. Thanks for watching. Please comment, rate, and subscribe. Don't forget to hit the ding-dong button up top there, because if you don't hit the ding-dong button up top, you're not going to know when I post this video. And if you don't know when I post this video, then you're not going to watch it. So don't forget to go ding, ding, ding. And apparently somehow in the interwebs, or under Gobble My Balls, thought process, if you don't hit the bell, that means you're not really interested in the guy, even though you're subscribed. You can subscribe, but you have to do all the amenities in order for me to get credit for it. So there you go. Thanks for watching. See you next time. Have a good day.